You probably find me at my worst because I've been up for the last 2 days in the back seat of various Los Angeles County Sheriff's cars, in various jails of the Los Angeles County Sheriffs. The whole thing started in the area that we're in right now. Basically, if you drive on the San Diego freeway, the 405, south, past Los Angeles International Airport, you run into the 105, and then the next exit is El Segundo, and then you have Rosecrans. I was driving south on the 405 on the morning of Friday, May the 18th. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I come off the freeway at Rosecrans, the 405, going westbound. You get, I would say about 200 yards off the freeway on Rosecrans, and you come to a stoplight. To your immediate right is the driveway, which is exiting from a Carl's Jr. You can see it in the background there. As I pull up to the light's red, and sitting in the driveway of the Carl's Jr., there's a police car. And of course you see the police car, and you say to yourself, don't be silly, it's a police car. It has nothing to do with you. But I see him. I sit there, the light changes, and I proceed to go westbound on Rosecrans. Of course, glued to the rearview mirror. And sure enough, I get a couple of feet down the road, the police car turns off his lights and then slinks out onto Rosecrans and starts following me. And of course I'm watching him all the time. Follows me for about a half block. Then they pull up alongside of me on the driver's side, and those great big floodlights, they turn them on and shine them directly into the driver's side window. And of course you sort of look at them and then you look away because there's all that light there. They then fall back behind me and all of the lights go on the car. I get to the intersection of Rosecrans and Aviation. I turn north and park with the police car behind me. Los Angeles County Sheriff jumps out of his car, walks up to the driver's windows. First word out of his mouth to me is, how many probation violations do you have? My mind starts going in slow motion, and the slow motion is asking, did he really say what he just said? I mean, he has not spoken to me. I don't know him. He does not know me. What has he seen that he's decided I have probation violations? I turned off the radio. I turned off the ignition, and I turned around and I have both my hands on the window. I asked him, first words out of my mouth, why did you stop me? He, seeing both my hands on the windows, decides he wants both my hands on the wheel. He says, put both your hands on the wheel. I asked him, why did you stop me? That goes back and forth a couple of times. He tells me to get out of the car. Now, as I understand federal case law, particularly as it is advanced in a case called Mark Royer versus Florida, the moment a law enforcement officer, by either show of authority, prohibits you from moving as you freely would want to be, you're under arrest, or the moment they tell you, move from there to there. That second, according to federal law, you are under arrest. So he tells me to get out of the car, he tells me to put my hands behind my back, and he does the whole thing with some kind of intricate little sort of knitting that they want you to do with your fingers, and he grabs me and takes me back to the police car, puts me in the rear seat on the passenger side of the police car. What proceeds to take place from that point is, again, it's sort of comic opera. It's sort of a cartoon. It's this whole cascade of events that are taking place in front of you, but you really don't believe this is happening. 2 more sheriff's cars show up. There are 3 sheriffs in them in total. What is taking place while this guy has me sitting in the rear seat of this caged area is, number 1, he takes my pulse. Number 2, he shines a flashlight into my eyes. They then get me out of the car, and they asked me to stand with my hands at my side and my toes or my feet together. They then asked me to count, and they sort of couldn't make up their mind because both of them were talking at the same time, to count to myself to 30 and to tell them when I get to 30. And he's sitting there with a stopwatch. This is apparently, I assume the gentleman is not a doctor. I assume he is not a psychologist, psychiatrist, or even a registered nurse. But somehow, within the contemporary genius of the sheriff's department, he is running medical experiments. He is interpreting psychological experiments, all of which I assume he is not, in fact, licensed to do in the state of California. But that's what's going on. Now, even more bizarre than this, while he's doing all of this, the whole group of these other sheriffs have gathered in a little circle, maybe about 10 feet away from where he's doing all this to me, and at the top of their voices they're shouting and screaming and using all of this obscenity and profanity, and it's like they're trying to work themselves up into excitement to lynch someone. I mean, I haven't said anything that I know of to these people, but they're like carrying on this loud, aggressive, profane conversation, obviously within my earshot and obviously for my benefit. And so you just, again, it's a cartoon. You're trapped inside of Saturday morning, or in this case, Friday morning cartoon.